Hi again, everyone. This is the second video. I put one out yesterday, a reasonably lengthy one, but today I'm intending to have it quite a bit shorter. People are very busy these days, so they don't have a lot of time to look into things too much to catch their attention if they're not already chasing that avenue. Once again, I'm trying to do things just in normal raw form, so just got out of bed a little while ago, read a bit more information on one of the books to do with laws within our land that are actually correct under the highest laws of common law. So beanie to keep warm, heaters starting to kick in, just trying to make the most of things. Now, the video I put out yesterday was to do with how the government has been allowed to get out of control, and they've created their own type of laws, and they're using their own type of law system to create fear in people so that you won't challenge fines that they're giving you. You won't go into the courts because you'll be afraid you'll lose and get a bigger penalty and all those things, and it turns out that's not the case. I'm for lawful, by abiding by the law that are right, the laws that are right and fair, which they actually were created under common law, the highest laws that govern our land under the Commonwealth, for any country that's in the Commonwealth, that came out from under the Queen of England at the time. Well, the Queen was still got, in theory, although they've taken that from us behind our backs. But the law still stands. I want to introduce quickly, before I forget, two excellent books that you can get online. This one is Know Your Rights. You can get that on knowyourrightsgroup.com.au. And the other one is Speeding Fines. This one here is AussieSpeedingFines.com. If I remember correctly. AussieSpeedingFines.com and knowyourrightsgroup.com.au. It's actually at the bottom of both of the books that I've just shown you. Okay, so just to quickly help people understand what was on the previous video, the basics of it, I was explaining that there's something that most of us don't know. The common law was set up in a way, whether we believe in God is irrelevant. It was set up by the people at the time who did believe in God, and it just turns out to be advantageous to those who may not. And what it states is that God, any God, you can take it as any God, okay, to a degree. Only they're using it as the God out of the Bible. Is the supreme God, and therefore all power and all laws come down from God to man. God is a creative being. He, she, it, whatever, is the supreme being and has created mankind. It goes on to basically indicate that, or to clearly indicate that the created thing can never rule over the creator. Okay, so now that's important to grasp as we go down the line of the chain, so to speak, down the line of authority. Okay, because mankind, according to the Bible, if you go grab a Bible and check it out, it indicates that God made mankind in his image. Therefore, if he's a creative being, then it makes sense that mankind would also be a creative being. So we've made cars and aeroplanes and all sorts of things, but we also created a government. Okay, so the people, I'm in Australia, by the way, for those that reach it elsewhere, but in many of your countries it's very similar or exactly the same, if it gets out as far as America and so on. Okay, so we're being told by our governments that we're to obey the laws. I have no problem with that. I don't want anarchy, and we can see what's happening with anarchy. But the beautiful thing of this is that what's been hidden from us is actually our very power to lawfully and peacefully bring the governments to their correct positions that they have usurped. Okay? So it's not about hurting people who are in government. They're people like you and I. We don't need to insult them, any of those things. We just hold them to account. It's very simple. It's fantastic. It was always there. It's just been, they did a switcheroo on us, which I'll explain in a minute, and we can now hold them back to account. But it's going to take a number of people. It won't be a big job. Most of us are afraid it's all going to be too big, so we don't even get off the couch to start. It's not true. I've come to realise we probably only need about 10 to 20% of the people in your country to do it. Maybe give or take a little, but it's not going to be everybody, okay? Now, the switcheroo came about because the common law was written on behalf of the people to govern the government. The laws were never for mankind, they were for the government. Just like if you created a robot and you wrote some programming laws to govern how that robot behaves so that it doesn't get around hurting people, smashing things, stealing things, whatever. You write programs so that it's a well-behaved robot, okay? But if somehow or another the program got hacked and it started changing behaviours, it would be your responsibility. It's your robot. It's your responsibility to get a hold of that robot, do everything in your power. Obviously, you care about your robot. You don't want to hurt your robot, etc. So you go about it the right way to bring that robot to heal. In other words, to begin to be in a place where it's safe for everybody else, so it doesn't get hurt by this robot until you can correct its programming. Okay. So now, somewhere in the process, the government has done the switcheroo and deceived the people into believing the laws were made for them. Okay, the laws were so that the people within the government couldn't go corrupt. No, it could be held to account. Right. All right. So that's enough of that. Then the government, we gave the power to the government to be able to create things also. Now, remember, a government. There is no Mr. or Mrs. Government. You can't take me to somebody called Mr. Government that I can hold personally to account when he abuses me or my family. Okay? It's made up of people who get in it. And I gave an example in the other video of Power Rangers. So for those who've watched that, when they're in a big trouble, they put together a robot fighting machine type thing, and each Power Ranger gets into one part of the body of that robot, or whatever it is, and they literally drive that arm or that leg or whatever the case. Now, the government's being run in the same way in order for something that is actually a creation of our imagination, doesn't exist, can't be seen, but it functions because people get into the different parts. All right? So we keep saying we have to hold the government to account. It's not the imaginary thing that can be held to account, obviously. It's individuals within the body of the government. So we need to start holding each member in there, whether it be especially the politicians. They're supposedly the highest in the rung or whatever the case, but in actual fact they should be the lowest. Not meaning that they're less than people, but that they're in a position that they are supposed to be the greatest servants. Remember that they're public servants. Therefore, they should also be held to account to the highest level. So no more stealing from the people and, oh, sorry, and I'll pay it back and sit on the back bench still being paid. No. If they want to hold us to the laws, then they need to be held to the laws also. And jail to you. Highest penalty, jail. None of this get off, your mates, you've got a mate in the courts who let you off, with minimum. No. This has to stop. Okay, and it can be done, and it is going to be done. There's numerous people already involved. So, I've got a beanie and an old top. But this is designed. I'm doing this deliberately to show that I'm an everyday person like you. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but I got reading. Just because I don't have one of their qualifications doesn't mean I'm not allowed to read the same books that they read, and dig deeper and find out the actual interpretations. You can buy the common law books that are literally the laws, and then you can get a version that has an explanation under each law in our everyday sort of English, so that anybody can grasp it. Okay, but the beauty of the books I just showed you before is they're already grabbing them and explaining them for you, and they're like step one books, really nicely, easily readable. try and give you an example where, see, there's a page I've read and highlighted. You can see it's blank on one, it's not on both sides, it's just on one side. A nice, easy read. Quite an enjoyable, fun read, actually, the way they've written it. And all they're trying to do is help people understand that we're trying to be good, law-abiding citizens. We want to do that, but we're being lied to by the very people that we're trying to trust. And that's because we don't understand the basics of the system. We're not supposed to trust them. That's why the laws were made, because our forefathers realised they weren't going to be able to be trusted. Not everybody in there. Lots of people are trying to do a great job, and I appreciate you for it. Okay, I appreciate them for it if they're listening to me. That's what we want. I want to be able to honour the police sincerely. I believe everybody in our heart of hearts wants to honour the police and the judges and our politicians even, but they have to be honourable before we can give that honour. It's as simple as that. They're trying to take it when it has to be given. Okay, so that's a little bit of a wrap on the basics of where our government's at and where we should be at. The people are the masters and the government are the servants. Now, they weren't forced into their positions. Nobody forced them in. They chose. Okay, so they can also choose to step out if it's all too difficult for them to be honest. That's not a problem. I'm sure there's other people who'd be willing to step in there, get the good money that they're being paid, etc., and do the job properly. Okay, so that's what we need. What you got to understand is this system is not hard. People are like, oh, it'll never change and all that. Well, if you keep saying that, that's exactly what will happen, because you're passing your vote, right? That's something else I'm going to create a video on at some point too, this whole idea of opinion. See, everybody's fighting at the moment about, oh, that's your opinion, you shouldn't be entitled to your opinion and so on, and yet we're constantly being told you should have to vote. And in many countries, you're penalised for not voting. Well, your vote is an opinion of who you believe is going to do a better job. And outside of that, your opinion on any topic is still a vote. I've just popped that in so that people grasp as, oh, actually, yeah, there's something else to this. That's why it's so important. It's a universal vote, okay, which is, if you take that away, then eventually they'll be able to rule that you have to vote or you'll be fined. You have to vote for the government or you'll be fined, but you're only allowed to vote one party regardless of how many stand. That's how ridiculous it potentially could get. If we go down this path of, oh, you have an opinion and it offended me, you can't have that opinion, you have to have my opinion. So we all have the same opinion and then we'll get along. No, well, that won't work. I mean, you can't create inventions with one opinion if it happens to be wrong. You know what I mean? So you need many opinions Thomas Edison had, 10,000 opinions of how to make the light bulb that didn't work until he finally found the correct opinion. All right? So we've got to have this free system, unharassed system of a free opinion, even if others disagree with it and it appears offensive and all of that. Okay? An opinion is not in itself inherently intended to be offensive. Okay, so now I'm wanting to get on to how, because it's all good to have the laws and all of that, but what most people get to is, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, first thing to do is the basics, okay? Go and begin to learn some of the laws. Your right to privacy, lawful right to privacy, lawful right to freedom of travel without being hindered, harassed, or charged anywhere in your country. So these tolls on the roads are illegal. The fines are illegal. Even your registration and license and everything is all illegal. Okay, they've created their own laws that are actually crossing the higher Commonwealth laws that states if the lower laws, I'm just giving a basic form, if the lower laws aren't in line with the highest laws of the land, then they're null, void and cease to exist. It's as though they never were created, okay? Again, these guys, the speeding fines and so on, they're not just saying, oh, hey, here's how to get out of the speeding fine so you can speed. That's not their intent. If you go on their website, you'll find they've got they've got suggestions, because there's no point pointing out a problem without providing a solution. Okay, so we're not here trying to say, oh, we just don't want to obey the laws. No, we want to obey the right laws, and we therefore freeing us to instruct the government. Instead of them telling us how it's going to be, it was always supposed to be we tell them what we want, and then they go off as a good public servant and do as they're instructed. And if they don't do it correctly or they're not willing to do it, they're removed immediately, and we find people who will. It's not a hard system, okay? So we say we want a bridge built. They go off and speak to the different people. We say we want 3 quotes or whatever. They go off and get them, find the 3 best possible, etc., bring them back. We then decide again whether we want it to go ahead, and if so, which one to go with, etc., etc. They go off and organise that. That's their job, not ruling us, okay? And especially in today's society, we have, with the internet, we can easily put up a system that puts up everything that is suggested. So any citizen could go on and say, I want a stop sign put on the end of my street. Okay, it could be as simple as that, or a park bench in that park or whatever. Okay, that's your vote. I vote that. Okay, and you just do it at the comfort of your home. Then it could be automatically emailed out or popped up on the system in some way, messaged in the system for people who, in your immediate street. So you just do it in sections. So your immediate street gets notified, then the surrounding areas get notified, then that council area gets notified, and then that's state, and then whole of Australia. All right, so everybody's got access to it, but you'd be notified of the things that are most relevant to you. And freedom, so you don't have to get on. But if something gets passed and you don't like it, if there's a street lamp out there that somebody posed, your neighbour posed, and you didn't care enough to check it out, or put your vote of no to it, and it starts shining in your window, that's your problem in a sense, although you'd be allowed to get on and put removal or repositioning of post, and the process would start all over again, okay? Then you'd have it so that nothing gets done. You can propose it, but nothing gets done until a certain amount of people put their vote of yes. It starts off as a no, regardless. No, you can't have it yet. There's not enough majority that wants it. Okay, and then it has to get to a point where a certain percentage of the people have voted yes. And the safer you wanted it to be, so that government couldn't just go do things behind your back, more so, then the higher you would make it. So instead of making it 51% instantly it's done, put it up as high as 70%, 80%. We come with a figure that we all think is the excellent, the ideal figure. Okay. So what that means, if you wanted something, you just have to petition it more, make it heard more, speak to people to help them realise why you honestly believe it's the right thing to happen, and then when they agree, they can go on and put yes to it. You also have your vote, so it can be changed anytime. So at the moment, we want that there, but something happens like a pandemic or a war or anything. You're moving house or whatever, big or small. You can go back on and change your vote. So it'd be fluctuating all the time, but they wouldn't do anything until it reached over that point, that 70%. I think 70% would probably be an ideal round figure, the government couldn't do anything until it reached there. Now, it hits that, so off they go and start doing the process. But if it drops under again, they have to immediately stop. And it just fluctuates like that until the people have over the 70% mark, and it stays there long enough till the job's completed. That clearly shows that the majority of people want that done. All right? So there's more to the system I've been thinking about, but it's straightforward and could easily be implemented. We program it correctly so that it's, so in theory it can't be hacked, which is in itself a bit of a joke. Everything eventually can be hacked, but at least we'd have a better system than, let's go to the Defence Force and utilise their ones or something. Okay, so there's easy solutions to the people being able to instruct the government, to be the masters of the government. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit more of my thoughts for the time being. It's getting to 20 minutes. I'm discovering as seeing this is the second video that it doesn't take very long to spend 20 minutes talking about the basics of something. So I will do it in bite sizes. I'll be popping another video up soon on how an individual can begin to use the laws to protect themselves in their day-to-day interactions with other citizens, because the government is using different lines of attack to try and take your rights away, but those same lines will be defence when you attempt to stand up. So it's gotten right down to the fact that everyday employees, because of the fear of their jobs being taken from them and threat of consequences and so on, are acting, the government's trying to use them to act as police officers, so they're not trained, they don't know the law, all those things, and yet they're expected to operate like a police officer and stop you from even being able to eat or buy things that you need, etc., etc. Okay? They're breaking your rights, like your Privacy Act, and they're placing you under arrest. If you won't understand, but they're placing you under arrest by telling you, "Oh, just stand there and wait your turn." Trying to make it out that if you don't do it, you're the bad citizen because, Granny's going to die if we don't all do this. Now, I'm not talking about this from the perspective of COVID. It's just COVID's brought all this to the surface in a very dangerous way. And if it's not nipped in the bud quickly, then it's going to get harder and harder to deal with them when they're sending the army in with guns, when we've had our guns removed from us, which again, common law has stated they're not allowed to do. They were put in for our protection against a corrupt government. That was the main purpose, the only purpose really, for citizens to be able to have access to their own guns, unlicensed and unrestrained in what type and all of those sort of things. The government crept in and made all that rubbish so that it sounded good for people's safety, etc. It's always about your safety, because, you're going to fear for your safety. We've got to get to a place where we have the courage to stop fearing for our safety and realise that we won't be safe unless we make ourselves safe. Stop waiting for a government to make you safe, okay? It's ownership. Take accountability, responsibility and accountability for your life and for the lives of the people immediately around you, okay? Don't wait on an imaginary creation. Imagine asking the robot to save you. That's crazy, all right? Don't wait on the imaginary creation using corrupted people to save you. It's madness, okay? All right, so that'll do for now. Once again, keep informing yourselves to the very, very best you can. There's excellent sites out there. You can buy good material, great investment. One book the cost of one book would be nowhere near what you'd be paying in one speeding fine or etc. Whatever fine they're trying to hit you for. Local council is not even recognised under common law, and we actually had a referendum. The government put a referendum in, I believe it was 1988, asking the people whether they could have permission to put in local councils, so your everyday councils. Every state in Australia outrightly said no. Outrightly said no. And they still went ahead and put them in anyway. And now you've got your rates that you're paying that are illegal. You've got it's private property. It's yours. The common law states that at no point are you allowed to be charged for living on your own land, etc. Right? And what's going on with Dan Andrews creating these... they're just his opinions, really. He's just demanding that things get done the way he wants them done, which are breaking all the laws, all your laws, the protections of your laws. They're being broken. Okay, and he's using the police to do it, and they don't know. They've been trained to do it a certain way deliberately. I believe most of them are well-meaning, and they're trying to do their best according to what they believe is law. So if you're a police officer, I ask that you owe it to the people that you're serving to get a hold of these books and to learn them and to find the courage to stand up. I'm not suggesting anybody in the government learns this stuff and then hands in their resignation. No, if you care enough to go and find out the truth If you're an abusive person, you're not going to, because you either already know it or don't care, and you're going to continue to abuse. Well, you're the very person we need to have removed, okay? And you rightfully deserve every punishment that's coming. I'm saying this not to be mean. I'm saying it so that you start to wake up and realise that I need to change my ways or I'm in big trouble, and rightfully so. Let me just say it like this for everybody to begin to understand. If we have a police force that's trying to stop criminals, that's a good thing. But if a police force has to become a criminal in order to catch a criminal, now we only have 2 criminals. That's not a good thing. Okay? So what they're operating is the end justifies the means. Not true. It never, ever justifies the means. If a policeman has to break laws in order to catch another person who's breaking laws, then he's a criminal. Okay? And that's got to stop. There's no reason. Okay? Even undercover police trying to catch criminals out, and they're injecting drugs themselves so that they go, I understand why they're doing it. They're not supposed to, but there's a blind eye turn and all the rest of it. These things are happening, but what about the person when they end up having the drug addiction and struggling or whatever, and they lose their jobs, and the police department turns their back on them and all that sort of stuff? It's happening. I've listened to ex-police talk. There's no position for that to be going on. Anyway, digress slightly, but that's because I care about the police. As I said in the last video, I believe they deserve far more money for what they're putting up with, especially at the moment. And that's part of the system I'd like to implement, where those that go in and do these things, they get money worth their while, so that people who want the positions, it's so enticing for them to come in, but the consequences of being in there are so high that only the very honest are willing. The rest to go, I know I'm not honest enough for that. There's no way I'm paying the penalty of being caught out being dishonest. I'm not applying to be a policeman. Okay? So we have the best of the best then, and they're paid, and they have all of the things that make them feel honoured and respected and appreciated and all that. Same with the judges, same with our politicians. It can be easily fixed and will be. That's the thing you got to grasp. Okay? So, coming soon is another video in how everyday people can begin to apply it when they're walking to buy a coffee and told that they have to fill out this form before they can sit down or whatever the case, and how we press back lawfully on them. We just hold the law up so that they begin to see their ignorance, they begin to doubt their supposed authority, and they begin to step aside out of fear of their consequence that could be on them. Now, it's not to make it hard on them, but if they're going to make it hard on us, then we have to defend ourselves. It's called self-defense. And we're in that place where we're having to defend ourselves with the law, okay? Alrighty, take care for now. Another one coming soon.